Ladles and jelly spoons, welcome back to Badgerworks. Today, this. Yes, we are continuing with our rather epic D-Day air assault diorama, and I still can't get this box under the camera. And today we're going to look at the figures. So let's get on with it. Yes, so we're looking at the figures today. So we've already done the Typhoon in a previous video. We did the vehicles. Now we've got the figures to do, and then obviously the base, but we'll do that last. So the figures, it's the RAF Ground Crew set, and you can get this in both 1/72 scale, and I also have it in 1/48 scale because I used it on the beer delivery Spitfire that I did ages ago. And when I looked at this, I thought a lot of these figures look very familiar. But I also used some of these on the train diorama that I did, that some of you may remember from a while back. If I remember, I'll put a link to it. Yes, let's have a look at them and see what they're like. Right, here we go. Now, the first thing to note, unfortunately, they are on this kind of rubbery stuff, so they are quite bendy, but hopefully they'll be all right. I say I've painted ones of these before and they weren't terrible. These actually don't look too bad, but there is quite a lot of, there's some like nasty mold lines on them. So I think what I'm going to do, we're not going to use all of these, by the way, because there's far too many. And a lot of them are duplicates, like there's 2 of this guy, there's 2 of this guy, there's 2 there, there's 3 of this guy, 4. This guy who carries, they actually give you, what makes you laugh? They give you 4 of these guys that are designed to carry the rockets, although I think they go in 2 pairs. So you've got like a left hand and a right hand, and then you've got the rockets over here, which are very bent, as you can see. But yeah, we're not going to use all of those. So what I'm going to do in order to make life a bit easier is I'm going to, the ones that we're going to use, I am going to take off the frame, give them a clean up, prime them, and then clean them again, because they'll be easier to I think to see once they've been primed. So let's get some off and throw some primer on them and see what they look like. Right, just before I get cleaning these up, I just wanted to demonstrate quickly the difference it makes putting the primer on. So you can see how much easier it is to see all the mold lines and everything than it is when they're just in their sort of raw state. So yeah, always worth putting a little bit of primer on first. Right, so I'm going to start with this chap here, and I'm going to do my best to keep it under the camera and in focus. So do bear with. But we're going to start off, I'm basically going to work from light to dark as much as possible. So I'm going to start off using this Kislev flesh for his face and hands. Right, so I'm trying to keep everything out of the field of view of the camera so that it doesn't try and focus somewhere else. And I'm also trying my very, very best to keep this in focus. Now this chap does have a rather magnificent moustache that we're going to have to deal with at some point as well. There are some horrible mold lines on these. I've done my best to get rid of them, but it's not the easiest thing in the world. Right, so that's his face, and obviously he's got this hand in his pocket, so I've only got one hand to deal with. And at this point it doesn't really matter if we go over the edges, because we're going to be covering all this, the surrounding, with a darker tone. But it's just good practice to try and not go over the edges if you can. Right, let me do a couple more layers on his face, and then we'll start doing the rest of him. Right, now for his shirt, I'm going to use this XF83 medium sea grey 2, primarily because it was sitting next to me and it calls for a light grey for the shirt, so I just thought I'd use this. It's funny actually, when you put this grey on, it looks almost identical to the primer, but it actually dries a little bit lighter. So actually works quite well. Now the interesting thing is, the plan also says, I don't know what this is he's got in his hand, but it says to do that the same grey, but I don't actually know what it's supposed to be. I don't know if it's meant to be like rolled up paper or something. But there you go, that's that. And I think what we'll do now is we'll move on to doing his uniform. Now for the uniform, we're going to use this Humbrol 96 acrylic. This is matte REF blue or something like that, but it's basically the correct colour. Yeah, that's the colour of it, you see. Right. I apologise for the noise you might be able to hear in the background. I think someone's got a chainsaw out and it's rather loud, but hopefully it won't affect this too much. So I'm hoping you can see I've been using this technique that I found out about the other day, where you basically wet the brush first and then load it with paint, and oh, it did not make a difference. It works really well. I mean, look at how this is going on, and it's literally just like one coat. Although I will say, these Humbrol acrylics, I've had a lot of trouble trying to airbrush them. It claims that you can airbrush them, but I haven't really had a lot of success with it. But they are much better suited, I think, to brush painting like this. So if you are a brush painter, you know, if you don't use airbrushes and things, you might want to consider trying some of these out, because I've got a few of them and they actually seem to work rather well. So by all means, buy a pot and try it out, because I actually bought this pot when I did the beer delivery Spitfire, because I wanted a blue to do the uniforms, and yeah, it works really well. You'll also notice I'm using the same brush for everything, because this is the brush that came with the set, or one of the brushes that came with the set. They give you two the same, and I do actually like these brushes. I think they work really well, and certainly for the kind of level of detail that I work at, they work very well. But it's funny being able to do almost like the entire miniature with just one brush. I do hope this is staying in focus a bit better this time. It's making it a lot more difficult to paint because I'm trying not to move it around too much. But I'll say, if it's making it easier for you guys to see what I'm doing, then so be it. This hat is appalling. It's in a terrible state. So this is the trouble with this stuff, is it's very difficult to clean it properly, because you can't really sand it because it's so soft. If you try and sand it, it just kind of wrinkles up. But you know, it is what it is. Right. Oh, actually, one more thing we need to do, which is great fun with this brush. Apparently his tie is also blue. Like that. There we go. I'm going to give him a quick look over and make sure I haven't missed any bits, and then we'll go on from there. Right, now for his shoes, I'm going to use this Abaddon black, whichever. I think it's Abaddon, but I'm not sure. Anyway, we're using this for his shoes. Right, we appear to be focused. We may have to go back over his shoes once we're done, because what I want to do is cut these miniatures off of their bases, and so I can stick them directly onto the diorama. So it is entirely likely that once we're done with this and got it all out, we may have to do some touch up on his feet, on all of them. Right, that'll do for that. Now I want to do his hair and his mustache. So for this one, I'm going to use this leather brown for his hair, but obviously I'll do a variety of different colours for the different figures, depending on, you know, what's around. Right, this is going to be hilarious. Shall we see if we can get him to do his moustache? Or should we do that with a small? Let's see if we can do it. Like me. I think that actually worked. Marvellous. Right, let's get his hair. Right. That looks alright. I'm quite happy with how that moustache came out. That was a miracle. So now I'm going to do a few little finishing effects to kind of jazz him up a bit. So the first thing we're going to do is put some of this Reichland flesh shade on his face and hands, but we'll wait for his hair to dry first. There we go. One final step. We're going to go back to this medium sea grey 2 and we're going to give the uniform a little bit of a dry brush to pick out the highlights. So just using an old flat brush here. Actually it's a filbert, but you know, near enough. Okay. And we'll just go over him very lightly. And just pick out some of these highlights on his uniform to make them stand out a bit. Like that, you see. And this grey will actually fade when it dries. So it might look a little bit leery at the moment, but it will actually die down as it dries. There we go. We'll let that dry nice and thoroughly, and then we'll give it a coat of matte lacquer. Right, so there he is with a coat of varnish on him. He still looks a little bit shiny, but this varnish will dull down as it dries, as it cures completely. This is one that I did yesterday, and hopefully you can see that that's a lot flatter than this one. So you do have to kind of leave it for a while and let it, I mean, it's dry, you know, you can touch it, you can handle it, but it will, over the course of about 24 hours, just dull right down. So yeah, that's looking pretty good. So that's these two out of the way. I'm going to do the rest of them. And what I'll do is we'll go over a couple of the details on some of the other ones where they differ slightly. Right, so a couple of these guys have got machine gun belts on them. They're not really the right scale because they're more like 303 belts than cannon shells, but you know, it is what it is. And for that, I'm going to use this. This is brass, and this is Plasticoat enamel. I don't know if you can actually still get this stuff anymore, but I've got a couple of pots of it, and it's great for things like this. Right, let's see how well this works. Right, there we go. I'll just touch up the back of it and the sides and whatnot, but that just gives you an idea. And when this dries, I'm going to put a wash over it just to you know, like delineate each round and that kind of stuff, because there is actually quite a lot of detail on this belt. It'd be a shame not to take advantage of it. Right, and the last little bit we need to think about is on our pilot here, because he has obviously a flying cap and he is carrying a parachute. So for the parachute, we're going to use this Vallejo game color khaki. And then for his flying helmet, we will use our leather brown. Oh, keep it under the camera. Right, we're going to use this for his boots as well, like the tops of his boots. Right, there we go. And like I say, I'll use the leather brown to do his flying helmet. Right, that's his flying helmet done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start going over all of the models with this flesh shade. But I'm also going to do his parachute and things like that as well. And on the guys with the machine gun belts, I'll do the belts as well. Alright, so let's get in on his face first. And this will just help pick out some of the detail on the parachute. And so it's kind of funny with these models is they are actually very well detailed in places and then absolutely appalling in others. But it's all down to the sort of quality of the moulding. Some of them are just moulded really, really badly. So, because it's like if you look at this guy, he's got his goggles, you can see the buttons on his tunic. You know, it's like really well detailed. But then there's just other ones where like the hands are all deformed and everything. It's just, yeah, it's kind of annoying, but you know, never mind. Right, let's do one of the belts. Right, so here's one of our machine gun belt Johnnies. So again, we'll do his face and hands and everything first. And then we'll just go over the belt. Just very lightly with it. Just to help pick out some of that detail and make it look a bit less sort of monochrome. You could have told me it got out of focus. What's wrong with it? Right, I think that's all right. So what we're going to do now is we are going to do the same steps as we did on the others. So I'll finish off doing the washes on their faces, give the uniforms a light dry brush of our medium sea grey, and I think after that we can hit them with some lacquer, and I think we can actually wrap this thing up. And here is our finished article, or articles I should say. These have actually come out not too bad, considering they're very difficult to clean up because of the horrible rubbery material they're made of, and the paint really doesn't want to stick to them, so if you do any of these, do not handle them too much afterwards. But anyway, they've come out all right. Obviously, we've got the diorama to do next, so that'll be in an upcoming video. But yeah, hopefully you're all enjoying this this little foray so far. As ever, I'd like to take a moment and thank my top tier patrons, Howard, Amy and Hawaii Clive O, for their continued support, and indeed all of my other patrons and channel members and all you lovely people at home. It is very, very much appreciated. So yes, hopefully you're all enjoying this, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers. Bye.